Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. It is time for another inbox review, and today we have a monster of a kit, the 148 scale HPH B-52H right here. And as you can see, this thing as a box is an absolute monster right here. So I mean, look at that. So there's not much to the box art right here, just this one little piece of box art, which we get a copy of it in the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the box all set up, the camera turned around, and then we can start getting into all the fiberglass, resin, instructions, decals, and everything that's included in this kit. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, and we are back with the 148 scale HPH Models B-52H, and opening up the box, we get this nice little poster of the box art right here. So as you can see, it's nice, and you put a frame around this and it's going to look absolutely gorgeous on the wall. So we got that taken care of, and then on the back side of this we also have one of the stencil and decal layouts for this, along with our fuel tanks and all of that. So a lot of little stencils on here. As you can see, zooming in around here, there's going to be a lot of decals going on this, which is really going to make this look nice. Alright, so starting off with the decals, we have a lot to go on in this kit. It is a full interior kit with the cockpit, the lower deck, also with the landing gear wells and the bomb bay. All are full detail on this kit, so we have a lot of work to do in this kit. So the instruction booklet is actually pretty thick. So going off, we have a copy of the box art right here. We have the legend of symbols that we're going to be using, and then we also have HGW seat belts that will be going on all the seats, showing you how all of those go as well, along with the photo etch it looks like. So these are definitely going to be, when 1/32, they're a lot of fun to deal with, sarcastically speaking, and a 148 scale, I can only imagine how much fun these are going to be. So opening up the book, we also have a mask for our clear parts right here, and then a few other things that are masked off, and then we have our 2 decal sheets, a decal for our instrument panel, along with the Memphis Bell figures, and then all of the additional set decals right here for our armament. And then going off with our color callout, we have MRP colors for our color callout, which is absolutely great because MRP is what I like to use, and they also have AK colors as well. We also have our photo etch frets. We have what looks to be 2 photo etch frets possibly, and then we have our additional sets with the ALCMs and also some clear foil right here, air launched cruise missiles for ACLMs. After that, we're going to be going off on all of our parts callouts right here. They are nice and numbered individually, unlike the Catalina, which is a little bit of a headache to find out which part is what number. But these are nicely laid out with what parts are supposed to be, and actually, so this is actually not the parts call out. This is actually the start of the instructions. Alright, so looks like we are starting off with our lower deck right here, where our radar operator and bombardier navigator sit right here. So again, a lot of nice work in here. Gonna be full detailed. Make sure you take pictures of it while you're building it, because once it's in the cockpit you won't be able to see it. Then we're working on our ejection seats. These ejection seats on the bottom actually shoot down instead of up, so definitely taking care of all those. And then we have the HGW seat belts to go on top of that, so really going to liven those up. So as you can see, all the detail going on through all these pieces right here. And then zoom in, I'm going to zoom in some more so we can see all the detail that's going in. As you see, even a boarding ladder right here, as you see. And then we have, at the very end, we have our photo etch placement for all the pieces going on. So you're going to be flipping back and forth on adding this photo etch right here. And then continuing on, we're working on our upper flight deck up next. So getting all those detail pieces on with the flight deck, right there, and it has color callouts as well for those. And then as you see, all the detail parts going into that. Continue on, more detail parts, and then our photo etch for the upper deck of the flight deck. So again, a lot of detail, each one of the throttles individually with the photo etch right there. You can see a nice little layout of how those are supposed to look. And then even our rudder pedals and everything going on right through there, as you can see. Alright, then after that we are working on our landing gear well. I can't tell if this is the forward or aft one. You see we have the full detail of that going on all the walls, and then we're going to be adding in more plumbing I think here in a second. So as you can see right through all of that, a lot of nice pieces. Okay, and then this is the other landing gear well that has all the other detail on it. A lot of detail going in here. Definitely going to want to put some mirrors on the underside of this so you can see all the work that you're going to be doing, plus taking pictures of everything while you're working on it. So again, a lot of nice detail going into all these parts. After that, we're still adding in more detail to our landing gear wells, getting all that in, and then there's the finished one. And these are the supports that go on the top side inside the fuselage to really push these down up against the bottom side of the fuselage. And then also our landing gear doors are also full detail as well. After that, we have our photo etch pieces that are going to be going on to our landing gear. So again, we're going to be flipping back and forth between where all the photo etch and the resin go on all these parts. After that, working on our wheels right here, getting all those on, and our landing gear struts right here. Looking like they're going to be nice and detailed as well. Alright, so after that we're taking all the sub-assemblies that we've done for the interior with our two landing gear wells, our flight deck, and our lower cockpit right here, and the beginning of our bomb bay as well. Getting all that together, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put it into the fuselage, and then we got to spin it around and get it to work. We'll see how that works out when we go to do this kit, which hopefully maybe next year sometime. So gives you a nice diagram of how it's supposed to go on that. And as you can see, continuing to work, again we're going to have to spin everything around to get it to work on that. It should be a nice fit. Hopefully, from what I've seen on other builds, this one does build pretty nicely, but we'll have to see when we actually start to build it. Again, looking very nice and detailed on that, looking how you're going to get your landing gear struts in on those. Just continue on more, getting all of that together right there. Then our other landing gear wells going in along with our landing gear. As you can see, more on that with our bomb bay, getting that all assembled. And we're going to be adding a lot more detail into this bomb bay as well here very shortly as well. You can see it's a fully detailed bomb bay. It says now when all the assemblies are fitted within the fuselage, you can glue them properly. HPH epoxy glue is highly recommended. So I'm guessing now you're just going to have to use the two-part epoxy to get this to work. Alright, as you can see, it looks like we have possible decals, or no, those are actual support parts going in to the landing gear as supports on that. Alright, up next we have our engines and also our clear parts and our horizontal stabilizers getting ready to be used for the next step. So that's the nice thing about this layout right here, is before each section it has you pull out all the parts that you're going to be using for these steps right here. So now we're starting with the engines. We have some nice detailed engines with all the photo etch going around here, and then we have our fan blades going on right through there, and our exhaust as well. Nice detail. We're going to need to drill some holes in here to put those onto the pylons or the engine mounts right there. And then we have the finished engine assembly right there, adding that in, and then our wing landing gear sections are going in, getting those all assembled and put in. and then getting our wheel landing gear on there as well. So again, nicely detailed with the doors as well. Alright, and then after that we are adding in our engine pylons, getting those added to the wings, and then also can't tell if our spoilers are going on now or later, but a lot of nice detail, even some nice reference photos of the real thing with the where these PE parts go as well. Alright, and then after that we're adding in our fuel tanks and then some PE going on to the wings, and then we have this pod going on, our sniper pod or FLIR pod going on there. It's going on all the way through there. Then our spoilers are going on right here. Then we have all these vortex generators going on as well, and then we also have photo-etch going on various places on this as well. Alright, and then we have the finished picture on how everything is supposed to look, and then after that we are adding in our wing supports right through there. So we have a very long steel bar and then a short brass pin to pin in the fuselage. Alright, so this kit had the option of having the flaps down or flaps up version. You had to make the decision before you purchased it, because you got two different sets of wings depending on which version you purchased. So I got the flaps down version, so I'll be getting the flap wells right here, as you can see, nicely detailed all the way through there, and we're really going to get to see everything when we start going through all the resin and fiberglass and all of that here in just a second. But you can see all the detail that's going to be going on to this onto these wings. Then moving on, we're adding some more photo etch detail to our fuselage, getting all of that on right there, and then we have some more vortex generators on the horizontal stabilizers to add on to that as well, and then more photo etch pieces going on. Then our clear parts also do have a couple resin pieces to go onto the top side of that, and the the clear parts do look like they have a nice green tint to them as well. And then we're just working on some more detail parts to the fuselage right here for the aft block, where they used to have the tail gunner, but they've blocked that off now, and these I believe are radar pods or something like that in there. Alright, then after that we are adding in even more detail, more photo etch detail to our fuselage, and then we have our two pods and also our ejection panels for our lower cockpit right here. And then we do have some cutting to do of the fuselage right here to get these intake vents put in as well. So we do have a little bit of modification to do on the fuselage right there. So getting all that in, and then we have our boarding ladder right here. And then we do have masks for these parts that are going to be painted different colors, as you can see with the actual reference photos, and also showing you where the PE goes for these pitot tubes and all the other detail parts that are going on to the front fuselage. And again, adding in more antenna parts right here, and then more antenna going on to this to the fuselage and on to the wings as well. Alright, so moving on, also the bomb bay was an option. You had the option of the general purpose bombs being released, or the ALCM, the air launched cruise missile rotary launcher for this. So for me, for the bomb bay, I went with the ALCM, and then also for the wings I did the general purpose pylons for the wing pylons. So you do have multiple options for what loadouts you want to do. So all the bomb bay detail going on right here, as you can see, adding in all of this, and then we're adding in some photo etch to our bomb bay doors, getting all that done. Definitely going to want to add some mirrors to the bottom of this build, so you can see all the detail work that you're going to do. And then we have the wing pylons for the general purpose, or the GBU bombs that I will be using, or also the internal racks as well are an option for that. Alright, as you can see right here, we have our internal rack right there, and then we also have some GBUs to go in, and it shows you how those go, and we can do 3 of those on that rack. And then we have the wing mounted pylons right here, which are the ones I'm going to be using for this, and we got all of that going on. And then we have You had the option of having these pylons for your ALCMs as well for your wings. And I'm not sure. I might have gotten all of this included in the kit. So we'll have to see here in a second. Alright, so additional set for the rotary launcher right here. Does look like it's going to be very nicely detailed from the pictures I've seen of some online builds. Just adding in some wiring and plumbing to that. And it really does look nice on that. So when I build it, I'm going to do 3 ALCMs, some cruise missiles on the top side of it, but leave out all the detail on the bottom 3 so you can see the detail on there. So going through, as you can see, all the detail going on. And then we also have the wing pylons for the cruise missiles as well. We also have some general purpose Mark 82s included. And then, as you can see, the Mark 82s on the interior bomb rack right here, or on the exterior wing-mounted bomb racks. And then we have our decals for our ALCMs, and then also for our GBUs as well, right there, and our color schemes right there. So now at the very end, we have our decal placements for the bomb bays right here, as you can see, all that, and then also some decals onto our landing gear as well. And then more decals for our bomb bay right there. So a lot of nice detail is going to be going into this as well. Then we even have stencils for our pilot seat. So pay attention going back and forth before you get everything done. Go through the instructions and make notes. So before I build this, I will be going through and then adding in instructions and quick notes on the instructions on, like, hey, there's supposed to be a decal here or a decal here. So don't close everything up before you add in those decals. Alright, so up next we have our decal placements. We only have one decal option for this, and this is from Barksdale Air Force Base, the Memphis Belle right here. We do have some nice decals going on here and a lot of stencils going on through this fuselage right here. So this is going to be a very highly detailed model going on, and also some nicely detailed decals for our lightning pod right here. I do have the Edward one just to kind of upscale it a little bit, and also I do have the Edward GBUs to use for this kit as well, just to kind of spruce up the armament for this. But all of this decals on this one are looking very nice. And then we have the reverse side, which we have all the stencils for our engine pylons right here. And then we have all the stencil detail for the lower side of the aircraft. So again, a lot of detail is going to be going into this build. Alright, so moving on to our first decal sheet. It's not as large as what you would expect. It's about a standard size decal sheet. And you see the decals right here. You see, like, these that are white right here, they're a two-part decal. So you're going to put this white part down first, and then you're going to put the color part on top of this. This helps stop the bleed through of your paint job through the decal. So that is a very nice detail. I'm trying to see if they are cut. It looks like it is a solid one-piece carrier film, so you're going to have to cut very close to the actual decal to limit your carrier film on the model. So that is one downside to this kit so far, but it's not a bad downside. It just takes a little bit of extra work. So all these decals do look very nice. They are nice and thin. I don't really feel anything bad about them. And from the decals I've dealt with from HPH, they are actually pretty nice decals. Alright, and then we have our other decal sheet. This is for the Memphis Bells and also our instrument panels right here. So those do look pretty nice. And for what you're going to be able to see out of the instrument panel or in the cockpit, this should do pretty nice on that. So again, these are pretty nice. Again, not cut, so you're going to have to cut very close to the actual decal to minimize carrier film on that. Okay, and then our last decal sheet right here, more just stencils going on right here, and then we also have some of the stuff for Barksdale right through there, and also our walkways. Again, you're going to have to cut very close to these, and then also we have all the other stencils going around. So a lot of nice detail going on. This is going to be a very busy model with all your decals. Okay, up next we have a nice little mask for a vinyl mask right here. We do have a little bit of shrinkage going on with the vinyl, so we'll have to see when we put these on the clear parts on if that's going to be a factor or not. But the decals do look pretty nice. They are nice and laser cut, or cut with the silhouette cutter or something to make those, but we do have a little bit of shrinkage on those. Then we have just a clear piece of plastic right here. I'm not sure exactly what this is for. I'm sure we're going to have to cut it down to size for various different pieces right here. Alright, and then we have our HDW seat belts. They are solid pieces, so we're going to have buckles and everything to feed this through. Again, they are very small, very fine. Definitely going to want to use your magnifiers and some fine point tweezers to get everything on these, but these are going to look really nice when they are all done. Alright, so up next we have one giant sheet of photo-etch. Right, this is probably the largest, one of the largest photo-etch sheets I've ever seen right here, and you can see all the detail that's going on here. With our instrument panels, instrument panel does look very nice. Get that painted up with that decal underneath of it. That's going to look really, really good. Alright, and then we have all the other photo etch detail pieces that go on with our spoilers and everything right through there. You can see just moving right along. All the little detail parts that are going to be going into this kit. Very, very nice. And it is very thin photo etch as well. So it shouldn't be like some of the photo etch that you put on as a panel sticks out like a mile on a sore thumb. These are actually very thin, so they should blend into the fuselage rather nicely. Alright, so now we are looking at the fuselage, and as you can see, I'm zoomed out all the way on my, and it doesn't even fit if I even put it diagonally. Now you measure it from nose to tail, right? It measures just under 40 inches for the fuselage, right? So 40 inches in length and about 2.5 inches of fuselage width, right? Now in millimeters for you guys in the rest of the world, let me look that up real quick. So in millimeters, the fuselage length is 1016 millimeters and a width of 63.5 millimeters. So that will give you kind of an estimate on how long and wide this is, and then when we pull out the wings we'll also do a measurement on that. But going forward on the fuselage, alright, so this thing is massive. Let me get the light set up. Alright, so looking at the fuselage, right, the detail on there, we do have some nice panel line and rivet detail on there, as you can see. I'm hoping that the detail will pick up on, there's even rivets right alongside of the panel lines, and we're going to have a lot of photo etch and stuff going on all the way through here. And when you get it all painted up, a lot of the little scratches and stuff are going to go away. But we have a lot of nice detail on there. We do have this one mold seam going down the middle that we're going to need to sand down, and this is fiberglass. So that's the way that they do these such large aircraft, is the fuselages are fiberglass. So we do have that one mold seam down the middle to take care of, and we're going to have a lot of photo etch going over a lot of these places. So like this hump right here, we're going to have a little resin that goes over that, and then a little resin over here, and then we're going to have photo etch that goes over these pieces right here. So those won't really be an issue, and then just take your time with sanding and putting to get all that done. But once it's all done, it's going to come out absolutely gorgeous. And then on the inside and underside, again, we have that center seam line right down there. It's not as bad as what I've seen from other HPH kits, but it should take a little bit of time to sand, but it won't be too bad. And then you just putty over everything, and it will be a-okay. Alright, so up next we have one of the wings. I'm not going to pull out the other one, but again we have some absolutely gorgeous panel line and rivet detail on here. Some of it you might need to hit up with the pin vise to make it a little bit deeper, but again, absolutely gorgeous detail all the way around. Then on the underside, these are fairly heavy as well, just to let you know. But we have all that, and then also we have the kind of pre-drilled holes that you're going to just need to clean up a little bit more, which is nice because on the other ones I've built or am building, there were no reference drill lines. You had to just kind of measure and find out for yourself on that. So again, nice improvement on that aspect right there. And then everything else is already cut out for you, which on the B-36 it was not cut out for you, so you had to do all the cutting yourself on that. And then we have our supports for the holes that our supports are going to go in. Now for the length of this wing, alright, so we have from tip to tip is 29.5 inches for total length. So, and in millimeters, that is 749.3 millimeters in length for one wing. So multiply that times 2. Alright, so in inches you basically have a 5-foot wingspan on that, plus 4 inches or 3 inches for your fuselage on it. So you have a 6.5-foot wingspan on that, or 5.5-foot wingspan. Sorry, 5.5-foot wingspan. For this model. So it is, like I said, going to be massive. Alright, so up next, everything comes in these nice little boxes. They're nicely packed. This is our clear parts box right here. We're going to open this up. We're going to take a look at our canopy, which is probably one of the best canopies I have ever seen. It does have this nice green light tint to it. I mean, it is barely visible. Like on the other parts that are going to be painted, it is a deeper green, but on the actual clear parts, the windows, it is just a barely visible green tint to it. So that is very nice on that part right there. And then also we have our navigation lights and some of our other lights right here that are also pre-colored, so you don't have to worry about painting these, which is again another nice touch. These are our sensor windows that go on the chin of the B-52, so again very nicely done on that. And then again some more sensor, or these are our wing lights right here, again nice and clear. And then we have our navigation lights, which like I said earlier are pre-colored, so you don't have to worry about painting these. These are the proper color on all of these. So again, very, very nicely done by HPH on this. Then also included in this box was one of our things of GBUs right here. We have an additional 3 GBUs right here. We'll pull out one of them, but they're all nicely molded in resin, one piece, no seam lines. Or actually these are plastic, okay? So again, nicely molded. We even have our fuse already in there, and then the fins are nice and thin and razor edge on the bottom. So again, nice detail. You might even, if you're not going to use these, like I might not use these, but I might save them for another 1/48 scale kit. If I ever build a 1/48 scale kit, I might save those. These connect very nicely together as well. Alright, so up next we have our ALCM, our cruise missile set, and we get 5 boxes like this that's just going to have all of our other parts. So we're going to open this up and you look inside, and these are absolutely packed with all the plastic and everything. So I'm going to try to go through this as best as possible so I can put everything back in the box how it needs to be. So right here we have some nice decals for our cruise missiles right here, and then also some photo etch for the back end of those as well. Then we have some tiny resin parts. These are our sway braces for our bomb racks right here. Again, very small, very delicate. You're gonna have to be very careful while you're sanding these off the block. And we get, actually no, there's more to this bag as well. Alright, and then also on the sprue, I guess one of them broke off, but we have, like I said, our sway braces right here, and then we also have our multiple ejector racks right there, which are absolutely gorgeous on the detail. We even have the cable detail in there as well, molded in. So those are very nice. Those are just as good as the Edward ones as well. Alright, so our next bag has Mark 82s, and there are a literal ton of these. So we already went over one thing of Mark 82s, but I'm just showing you how many of these we get. So we get one of these, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 20, so 40, 43, and then an additional, so we have a total of 51 Mark 82s included in this kit right here. Alright, so up next we have our pylon. This is for our ALCMs right here. As you can see, it's nicely molded in resin. This is again a nice chunk of resin as well, pretty heavy. And you can see all the detail that's molded into that as well. So absolutely gorgeous detail going around on all this part. You're just going to need to saw right along on here and then sand it down to make it nice and smooth. Then you also, looks like I can see a drill hole to do a reference hole right there to drill in for your mounting brackets right there. So again, very nicely done on that. We get 2 of those. Alright, so moving on to our next bag, this is our ALCMs right here. You can see all the detail that's put onto these right through here. We just got to saw off the casting block right there, and then on the underside you can see the wings that are molded in and all the detail going on there as well. So again, a lot of nice detail on that, and you get a lot of these cruise missiles as well. Okay, up next we have another block of fins of some type. Not sure if these are for the cruise missiles. I think these are for the side fins of the cruise missiles, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4 of these blocks right here. Alright, on to our next bag. We have some of our rotary launcher detail. As you can see, all resin cast and absolutely gorgeously cast detail right through there. This is going to look absolutely amazing when it's all done. Then we have more detail parts for that. Right here, as you can see, this is also for our rotary launcher right here, and we have even the holes, or no, that's for the gear right there, sorry. And then we have some hose detail right here, a bunch of other little detail parts just going around all there. Then our actual rotary launcher with our pylons going on right through there. Okay, up next we have a bag that has all of our, some more of our rotary launcher details right through there. You can see electronics box, and then some of our actual rotary launcher right through there. So again, a lot of nice detail on that. Just going around. Then up next we have our general purpose interior bomb racks right here. As you can see, a lot of really nice detail on those. And again, more on our bomb racks. These wafers are really thin, so all it takes is a little bit of sanding over some 400 grit sandpaper, and the wafers just pop right off, and then you have a perfect ready part to go. Alright, so up next we have our next box, which is our external parts and our engines right here. So we open this up, and again, just tons and tons of photo etch. So we'll start going through everything. Alright, so up next we have our chin pods right here. Again, looking at all that fine panel line and rivet detail on there. This is going to look absolutely amazing. Just need to be very careful when you're sawing that off what I would do is I would cut it off flush up here, and then I would take my Dremel and then just Dremel off the rest of it to get that smooth smooth fit. And it's also labeled right and left on these. Then we have more detail right here, as you can see. All the little fairings, these are for your engine pylons right here. Get nice and smooth on that. Again, another engine pylon, or no, this is one of the lumps that go up on the front of the nose. Here's your other chin pod right here. Again, nicely detailed. You're going to have a clear part that goes into there as well. And then I think this is maybe the SATCOM antenna right here. And then another lump and bump for the fuselage as well. Okay, after that we have just this one cast block right here. This is going to go up into the fuselage, and then our wing spar is going to be going through this hole right here as a support. So definitely, and we also have the arrow pointing forward, so this is the way that it goes on that. Alright, so up next we have our engines. We have 4 of these, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but we have some absolutely gorgeous panel line detail molded into this, and we're just going to need to cut off on the front right here and then kind of sand it and re-round it to get that to work. Then up here, this part might be an issue. I'm not sure if there's a piece that goes on the front of this to kind of make that work, but again, some nice, on all of this we have some gorgeous panel line detail on that. And then we have the back of the engine right here. Again, nice panel line detail cast into it, as you can see, all the way around. Not sure what those little holes are, but they are uniform and they are on all of them, so I'll have to check and see. Maybe these need to be filled right here, but again, nicely done. We're going to saw these off, and then the exhaust area, we're going to shove that down into the hole to get that to work, and then this is going to fit. It's not going to work because I have the blocks on, but it's going to look really nice. And these are going to be, I mean, this is the size of my hand right here. Zoom out some more. Right, so that's the size of my hand, pretty much. Take off maybe a little bit. So, I mean, that's how big it's going to be for each engine. Alright, so up next we have our horizontal stabilizers right here. And this is a heavy chunk of resin right here. I mean, and you can see all the detail that's on there. We do have a little bit to sand off right here, which is nice because it's protecting this little part right here from breaking off. We also have some nice little pre-indented places for all the vortex generators, so you're not really going to have to guess on where those go and how those go. So that's nice on that part. Then on the underside, again, we have some nice detail. Do have a little bit of cast or something on there that's going to need to get sanded down. Again, a lot of nice detail. Even the vortex generators on this side as well for that. And we get 2 of these, of course. Then we have our vertical stabilizer right here. Again, really nicely molded. Again, very heavy on detail, or on resin right here. So again, very nice on that. We do have some resin to clear out on that. We do have the rudder up next that's going to be going on the backside, and then also some resin to clean up right there. But we do have some nice locator pins for this as well, unlike the Catalina, which does not have any locator pins at all. Alright, and then looking at the rudder, which is nice and cast in resin right here. Again, some nice detail on there, as you can see right there on both sides. So this is going to look very nice when it's all said and done, as you can see right. Let's do it from this way so you can see how that looks. Kinda rough estimate on how that looks. Alright, so up next we have our engine pylons. A lot of resin to to take off of this, and then we're going to have a lot of cleanup to take care of as well, as you can see. But for the panel lines and everything on here, absolutely gorgeous as always with this kit at least. Some very nice detail on this. And we get 4 of these as well. They're going to be different per, some are for the inboard engines and some are for the outboard engines. But for the most part, they're going to be pretty much the same. We also do have some locator pins located right here for this as well. So again, nice improvement from HPH on that. Alright, so up next we have some more very thin wafers right here. These are for your horizontal stabilizers that go on there, and then we have some antenna bumps that go right here. So again, nicely cast in resin, and also the wafers are super thin. You just take it over some sandpaper, rub it over some 400 grit, and the wafer disappears, and you can trim out and do whatever you need from there. So again, very nice on that piece. And then we get a duplicate of that one because for left and right side, as you can see right there. Then we have some other detail parts like our antennas right here. We're going to have some photo etch bits that go on the edges of these, but again, very nice and fine detail on all these antennas. I definitely want to get a very fine razor saw for cutting all of these off. Looks like one of the antennas actually broke off. Might still be in the bag though, so, or if I can't find that, I'll just scratch build it with a piece of styrene. Alright, and then we have these intakes for the wings right here. Again, nicely done. And then some more lumps and bumps right there. And then our intakes that are on the side of the fuselage. These we're going to have to cut the fuselage to make holes for. And we'll just have to trace these out prior. I'm going to do that prior to doing all the construction on the interior and getting everything put into the fuselage. Alright, so up next we have our fan faces right here. Again, absolutely gorgeous fan detail on there. Let's zoom in a little bit more so you can see that. But that fan detail looks absolutely amazing. And again, all you do is you take this, you take it across the sandpaper like so, and the wafer thin resin sheet right here will fade off, and then you'll get that nice hollow backing to the back of the fan blades on all of this. So again, very nicely done. We get 2 of these sheets as well. And then the rest of our engine detail are in this bag right here, which is not much to it. You're going to assemble everything and then it's going to look really nice when it's all done. Alright, so up next, our next box is the undercarriage. So get this opened up. Let's take a look. Again, nicely packed with all the resin and everything on here. Alright, so moving on with this next box for our landing gear. First off, we have our wheels, and the tread detail on these wheels are absolutely gorgeous. And then we even have some sidewall detail for the Goodyear on here as well. So once that gets all cleaned up, those are going to look really nice, and you're going to have the halves that go on, and then again just sanding off this wafer thin plastic or resin to take care of that. So alright, then we get a lot more of the wheels right here. Some of those had just broken off, but you can see the wheel detail right there, the hub detail, and then our brake hub right there as well. So a lot of really nice detail on these wheels. Alright, then we have another block. This one's thick, so you're actually going to have to saw it off the block, but this is all the detail of the hosing and everything that goes into the landing gear wells as well. Then we have some more landing gear detail right here for our shock absorbers right here, and all of that going on. And I believe all of these are metal core as well. So this is really going to help support the weight of this aircraft, which is going to be a very heavy model. So our landing gear doors on this side, nice and smooth. You're going to have to saw out right along here, but we flip it over, and this detail on the inside of this is absolutely astonishing. I mean, you can't get much better than that, honestly. That is just absolutely amazing detail on that. So definitely going to be using of multiple mirrors on the underside of this build. As you see, the other landing gear door as well, right there. Then we have this for our railing that goes on the inside of the landing gear well, again, and a lot of other detail parts for that, right there. Very nice. Then we have our landing gear struts. Okay, now this is actual metal core because you can see the brass tubing in there, right there. So there was a little bit of a not a solid cast on this, but that should be fairly easy to take care of on that. So, but we do know that this is metal, a metal core, so this is really going to support that weight of that heavy model. I'm guessing this thing is going to weigh upwards of 10 to 15 pounds minimum when it's all completed. So again, very nice detail on both sides of these. We just have a little bit of cleanup to do on that, but it's very thin, and like I said, it'll knock off with a hobby knife really easy. Then we have the other one right here with, I don't know why we have those bubbles right there, but again, really nice detail on all of that, including our lights right there. Alright, so moving on, we have a bunch of the detail parts that go into the landing gear wells. As you can see, very nicely done. A lot of nice detail on there as well. And when this all gets painted up, it's going to look absolutely amazing for that. Then you can see all these other boxes right here. Just going to try to grab them all in the palm at one time so we can, yeah, I mean, you can see all the detail right here. Just all the way through. Gonna look absolutely amazing when it's all done. Alright, up next we have our landing gear wells for our wing wheels right here. Again, nice detail on those for that part. And then we have the other side right here. So this part kind of broke off, so you can see how the other side looks. That's how that looks. And then we have our wheels right here for it. Again, very nice tread detail on there, and actual hub detail as well. And then for our struts as well, again, nice, and they are metal core. You can hear it when I click it that it's metal core right there. So again, these are going to be nice and strong and support the weight of the wings, which are again very heavy. And then we look at our landing gear doors for the wings. Again, absolutely gorgeous interior detail. And then on the exterior, very nicely done. The cast is right on the edge of that, so it should just take one or two swipes with some sandpaper, and those should be all taken care of on that. Alright, so up next we just have some metal inserts, or not metal inserts, but the inserts for the hull that are going to be supports for our landing gear areas and our bomb bay. And then these are also, I think these are the short nubs for our wing supports as well. Alright, so up next we have a couple of the bulkheads for our landing gear. This is going to be the underside, so the bottom side of our landing gear wells. Again, very nice detail on that. Definitely going to want to take pictures of this when you're done painting and weathering it, because you're really not going to be able to see any of this when it is put into the model. But as you can see, all that nice detail, and then we're going to be putting even more detail all around there on all of these right here. So this is going to look very nice when it's all painted up and weathered right through there, as you can see all those. Alright, then up next we have all the bulkhead detail right here. Not much to any of these bulkheads really for the most part, but you're going to be adding in all the detail that goes onto these. This one has a little bit more detail on it, as you can see. Some nice ribbing detail on there, and also some nice rivet detail, some nice raised rivets on there if you can see it. Just moving right along through all these. And then these, yeah, these are your landing gear wells, the ceilings to that, and again, gorgeous raised rivets on all of these. last one with a little bit of little parts on that. Okay, up next we have our bomb bay and landing flaps box right here, and again, like all the other boxes, are nicely packed full of goodies. Get these set off to the side and start going through them. Alright, starting off with our walls right here, bulkheads. Very nice detail on that. We're going to be adding a lot more with the wiring and decals and some photo etch going on there. And again, we have some nice raised rivet detail on the beginning section of our bomb bay doors right there. So we get two of those left and right. Then we have our bomb bay doors right here. Again, absolutely gorgeous rivet detail on those, as you can see. And then on the other side, it's just a little bit of panel line detail on that right there. Again, we get two of those. Then we have the ceiling for our bomb bay right here. Again, absolutely gorgeous rivet detail and everything going on in there. Sad to say that this is going to be pretty much all covered up with the rotary launcher and the cruise missile, so you're not really going to be able to see any of that detail, maybe a little bit of it. Then we have our bulkheads for our bomb bay, which is going to serve as a two-piece, so we flip it over on the other side and we're going to have the other side of the landing gear as well. But you see this right here, that's one side of our bomb bay, and then right here we have one of our bulkheads for our landing gear well right there for that one. And then this one we have the other landing gear well right here. You can tell because it's only half right here. And then on this side we have the other bulkhead for our bomb bay right here. Alright, up next we have some fire bottles right here, or some type of bottles, actuator bottles, something like that going in there right there. And then this one, a bunch of other little detail parts going on. As you can see, a lot of detail going into this kit. Then we have a piece right here, nice raised rivets on that piece. And then we have some of our interior parts right here. We are going to need to clean out the holes right here. There is a little bit of cast on there, but those shouldn't be too difficult to take care of. And again, on this side, same thing with that. Alright, so moving on to our next section, we have our flaps. We have our inboard and outboard flaps. We get two of each, left and right here, but you can see all the fine detail on the back side of these flaps right here. Absolutely gorgeous on that. And then we flip it over to the other side. Not much. We do have the casting block to cut off right along here. It shouldn't be much of an issue on that. And then going by the inboard flap right here, again, we have absolutely gorgeous detail. This is phenomenal right here. Just absolutely amazing. This is going to paint and weather up gorgeously. If I can get my camera to focus. There we go. Right there. Alright, now we have our flap wells right here. It comes in sections right here, but you can see all the nice little detail in there, and then add in a little bit of cabling and wiring to this, and that's going to look absolutely amazing when it's all done. And again, these are nice and thin on here, so just sand it down just a wee bit and you'll be ready to go on these. As you can see, even with these right here, you do have a little bit of wiring already started to it. So again, right there. Then these, I think these are what mount the flaps into the flap wells right here. These are your actuators for your flap. So as you can see, these are metal core, so these are also going to be very strong on your connecting points. Alright, so now we're on to our last box right here. So this is our cockpit and standard weapons right here. So just going off on everything, let me get this set off to the side. Alright, so starting off with some of our cockpit parts right here, we have the lower bulkhead right here, a little bit of detail on that piece. Then we have our upper flight deck right here. Again, not much detail to this piece, but we're going to be adding a lot to this right here on that. And then again, another flight deck piece right here. We're going to need to cut this panel out right here, so we have the step down to the lower flight deck right there. Or I think this, yeah, this is the entry where our boarding ladder is right here. So we're going to need to cut that one out. And then we have this piece, which is the back end of our upper flight deck. And again, we're going to need to cut this piece out so we can have access to the lower flight deck right there. So again, some nice detail, panel lines and all that going on there, but not much to it. But we're going to be adding a lot of other detail to that, to these parts right here. Alright, so up next we have some very fine detail going on with these racks right here, and then some more electronics equipment, and then the hatch for our boarding ladder right here, the entryway. As you can see, there's a lot of nice detail on the inside of that also. Alright, then we have some other fine detail. This is for our ejection seats, like our headrest right there, and then our ejection pole handles and a couple other pieces right there. Okay, up next we have the overhead panels for our clear part, our canopy right here. This part that goes over the pilot and co-pilot right here. Again, very nice detail included in that. And then we have some of the switch panels right here. Again, very nicely done on the very intricate detail as well. Alright, so up next we have this is like our center console right here, and then the side panels right here that we're going to be adding Photo-etch to on those. And then you can see all the other detail like our control sticks and all that. Some of the pieces like this one fell off right here. I believe that's where that goes. And then a couple other pieces going in like our trim wheels and all that are included in this little wafer as well. You can see this tiny trim wheel right here. Alright, so up next we have some more weapons parts right here. I'm not sure where these will go, but again we have the weapons mounting pylons right here. Then we have some general purpose bomb racks right there. Then again, more bomb rack material. And then I believe this is for our lightning pod right here. Again, some nice detail on that as well. Alright, so our next bag is with all the wing pylons for our general purpose weapons, GPUs, all those. So this is the set of pylons I'm going to be using for this build. And as you can see, we have some nice panel line and rivet detail on that. And then we also have our fuel tank right here, which again, nicely detailed, heavy as well, so it's a solid piece. It feels like it's a solid piece of resin. We just have this mold casting seam line to sand off to get that back to where it is, and everything should be okay on that. We get two of those. Then we have two of the outer wing pylons right here. One of these are going to be the lightning pod pylon, and I'm not sure what the other one has on it, if anything. And then the main mounting bracket for the wing pylon right here. Not much to that. Not seeing any drill holes in that one as well. Then we have the other piece of the pylon right here for our general purpose weapons right here, our non-cruise missile weapons. Right, so up next we have another bag that has a lot of our cockpit stuff with our electronics panels and switches and all that, our boarding ladder. Again, very nicely detailed on that. We just have to clean out these holes right here. Everything else on there looks very nice on that. So that one's all done. Then we have some more right here. That piece. Our instrument combing, we're going to have the decal that goes behind there, and then we're going to have Photo-etch that goes on top of that to really liven that up. That looks really nice. Then we have the back end of one of our ejection seats right here. I think this is a mattress pad for one of our racks. And we have the other bulkhead. This is the top flight deck bulkhead on the aft end right there. See all that nice detail on that. That's going to look really nice when it's all painted. Yep, and then this is the other side. This has our rack right here, which the mattress will go on as well. So nice that it's actual separate, because that's going to make painting that and weathering that a lot easier. And I might even put like a piece of tissue over it, paint it up so it makes it look like it's an actual blanket and pillow back there as well. Then we have another electronics box right here. I believe these are for the lower deck right here. As you can see all the little detail, and you're gonna have photo etch and everything that goes on there as well. Then we have the sniper pod. This one, or the lightning pod, sorry, not the sniper pod. This one looks okay. Again, I think I'm going to go with the Edward one, just because I can move the head around on this, and also some more decals. And it does look like the Edward one is a little bit better detailed on this. And we have another electronics panel right here. This is where our radar, operator, bombardier, and navigator all sit right here. So again, nicely, super nice. It's so sad that we're going to be covering up all of this detail when we put all this into the cockpit. Alright, then our other ejection seats right here. So our radar and nav ejection seats. Then we have our regular ejection seats right here. Then another electronics panel. Then we flip it over to the other side. We have another seat right here, our jump seat. And the two seats that popped off that I've already shown you were supposed to be right there. Alright, and then finally I ripped the top of this bag, so I can't get it open without cutting it. But it has some seat cushions and other detail that's in there as well. Alright, so up next are our GBUs right here. Again, nicely, these are in plastic styrene right here. So again, nicely done. We do have a little bit of a seam line going down this side right here on both of them. So we're going to need to sand that off. And then also some nice detail on that. We do have an ejector pin mark on here as well. They do look very nice, and we do get the mask for these as well. But with that being said, I think I am going to use either the Flying Leathernecks ones or some res kit ones, depending on which loadout I use on these. And we get a lot of these as well. Alright, so this is our last bag of parts. Alright, let me get one that's not broken. Alright, so on this right here, you can see we have two different options of tails, which is very nice. And if you want to save these for another build, like an in-flight build, you can do that, because we have the GPUs in the stored position or stowed with the winglets stowed, or we have them with it extended right here. So after they drop the GPU, these little winglets spring out and help guide the GPU to its target right here. So that is a very nice touch if you wanted to do that, or save this for another build, which I might do on that. So we'll have to see. And we get 3 of these as well. Alright, and one thing real quick, I know we've gone a little bit long-winded on this inbox review, but there is so much included in this. I just wanted to go over this book right here, which is definitely something that I think is a must-have if you're building a B-52, whether it be the Model Collect one or one of the old Itinerary ones, or even this one. It seems like when HPH was designing this model, they went solely by this book. And this book has a absolute ton of gorgeous, absolute reference detail on here, so you have no questions about how anything is supposed to look on this aircraft. So again, very, very nice reference photos. Everything is thoroughly documented on here, even with some descriptions on here. And all the colors are in, or all the pictures are in color, so you can really see what you're doing when you're working on this. As you can see, all the different sets right there, even with the cockpit and everything. It's really going to be beneficial when you're building this B-52, whether it be like the Model Collect one, or the Itinerary one, or a Monogram one, or this one, or whatever. This book is highly beneficial for detail and all that, and I will definitely be using this one a lot when I build this model. Alright, so that is everything for the HPH 1/48 scale B-52H. And this kit is going to be a lot. It's going to be huge. But there is full detail on every single little thing that you could think of to do. Everything that we've been wishing for the Itinerary or any of the other B-52s that have been out there is in this kit. And I cannot wait to build this. I can't remember. This might be on my build queue for 2026. I'm not sure. Because I would like to try to do one HPH kit per year until I'm all done with their models. But that's all I really have to say. Sadly, HPH is no longer in business. So the only way that you can really get this kit is if you find one on eBay. If you can find it on eBay, highly recommend it. But with that being said, that is definitely going to hurt your pocketbook. When I purchased this, I think it was around $1,200 for the purchase on all this. But with that being said, you do get a lot, as you saw, a lot of resin and fiberglass and photo-etch and decals and everything. And it looks like it's really going to be worth it on this kit. It looks like they went out with a bang with this kit because it looks really nice. And a lot of the other issues I'm seeing with the Catalina, I'm not seeing with this so far. So we'll have to see. Again, I'm really looking forward to this. I don't know. I'm going to have to find some place to put this when I build it because the B36 is taking up one area. I might have to build a table or buy a dining room table just to put this on, because this is definitely going to be a highlight for a show or something. So anyways, that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope if you're interested, I hope you have luck in finding this kit and able to get it if you're able to. But anyways, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below. Comment if you're one of the lucky ones that has this kit as well. And until next time, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.